Okay, right. I can see there's already quite a lot of you on online, and so welcome to our MSc in Energy Management webinar. I'm joined today by one of our ambassadors, Theo, who we will meet in just a moment. Hopefully you can see my presentation and you can hear us okay, and you can put any messages. I think the chat actually is disabled, but you can just pop that in the Q&A function that you can see us and hear us okay. So some of you might already know me. I'm Rachel. I am the recruiter for the MSc in Energy Management. We might have already spoken before, but if not, then I'm the person that's here to help students all through their kind of application process, just giving them information about ESCP and about this, the program, the Energy Management Masters, and everything up until a student submits their application, basically. So I just wanted to run through the agenda. So some of you joining the webinar watching today, you will already be enrolled in our program to start in October 2022, which is great. There also will be some of you here who are considering this Masters for future intakes, either October 23 or even beyond. So really this is a good webinar for kind of both those categories. I will touch on some of the energy management information, what the specialisation is and who it's for, but mostly we'll be looking at the curriculum, the kind of seminars that students do during this Masters, and also things like the internship and the thesis, which is something that our ambassador Theo is currently at that stage at the moment. Also at the end, we will have time for a Q&A. So if you do have any questions for me or for Theo, please do put them in the Q&A function, which you should be able to see at the bottom of your screen. And then we can both answer those as we go through. So let's start by meeting our ambassador, Theo. So actually, just to explain, so Rodrigo was also meant to be here today, but unfortunately he's unable to attend because he's in Colombia at the moment. But luckily we have Theo with us. So Theo, maybe you could just introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about who you are, what you were doing before you applied for MEM.
Okay, so hello everyone, I'm Theo. So I'm part of the 2021 cohort. So I started last year. Now I'm doing my internship and I'm starting my thesis as well. Before the MEM program, I was working in finance, in the financial industry in a bank. More precisely, I was doing wealth management. And I think one thing that you might want to know is why I wanted to do the MEM program. And actually, I wanted to do the MEM program because I didn't like finance. And I wanted to switch in something more meaningful, so in the energy transition. And I decided to do the MEM, like many of you maybe, because I didn't have any background in energy, and I feel the MEM was more insightful for me because there is one part on renewable energy, but also another part of fossil fuels and how they all link together. So that's why I decided to do this. And now I'm doing my internship in a company called Mirova, which is an investment fund that is specialized in the energy transition. So I'm basically working to get funds to finance, wind farms, solar panels, etc.
Excellent, thank you. And thanks again for joining and kind of sharing your insights as we go through the webinar. So let's first look at MEM and what it is. So this is really just MEM at a glance for those of you who are perhaps thinking of applying to future intakes. So this program is really a very 360-degree view of the energy business. So it really covers many different areas in that sector to enable students to become experts really of this industry. So this includes looking at oil and gas or electricity and renewables, but it's also about looking at things like energy markets, risk management, energy trading, and so forth. It is a full-time master, and it's for those students who have at least a bachelor's degree and some form of relevant some form of relevant work experience. If you have a master's already, you can also apply for this program, and in fact quite a few of our students do have masters already, although it's not necessarily a requirement. So the program is either 18 months long or 21 months long. Those who do the 21-month program you would take an additional online term. This is for those who have less than 240 European credits. So basically, whether you do 21 months or 18 months is based on your previous bachelor's degree. But otherwise, this programme is studied in 2 locations. So once the specialisation begins, where it begins in October at term 2, students study in London and in Paris. So there's 6 months in London and then 3 months in Paris. This is then followed by the 9 months of professional development, where our students complete an internship and a thesis. So these 2 locations just really allow you to experience 2 different campuses in 2 very different cities, and just get more of an exposure to the industry, but also to ESCP staff and other students, and just allow you to really expand your network, especially if you're not necessarily from one of these 2 cities. And it's the kind of international aspect, and that cross-campus experience is a really big ethos that we have at ESCP. So the Masters itself is accredited by the French state. So it's known as a Grade de Master, and it holds 120 European credits. So after students graduate, they receive 2 different qualifications. One is the French Master's degree, which is accredited by the French Ministry of Education, and it's known as the DEMI. And then the second is a Master of Science diploma from ESCP Business School. If you do want any more information about those accreditations, you can just drop me an email and I can provide some more information. So as I said, our next intake is in October 2022, but applications for that have closed, and we have our final class, which is really great, and they will be starting in a few weeks' time. So now we're looking ahead in terms of the recruitment for October 2023 intake. So we're still in the process of finalising things like tuition fees and the application form. So you're not yet able to apply, but we hope for that to be open in the next month or so, and you can already see our application deadline dates on our website. So the first one is about mid-November, and you can take a look at the other dates that we have coming up throughout the year. Once this information is released and the application portal was reopened, I'll be sending out an email notification to all of our interested students. So who should be applying for this specialisation? So you heard a bit from Theo on why he chose this master and what he was doing before. But essentially, this specialisation is for those candidates who hold at least a bachelor's degree. And as I said before, a bachelor's and a master's is also acceptable, and have a minimum requirement of 12 months of full-time work experience. So internships and part-time experience can also be counted towards this, but we like to see students having some experience, whether that's in engineering or the energy sector directly, or similar to Theo, more focused on finance or business and consulting, something where you are able to bring relevant experience and relevant exposure, and really pair that with the energy expert knowledge of this program. So as I said, the minimum requirement is about 12 months for this program, and the maximum is generally about 8 years of work experience, and we tend to have an average of around 3 years of work experience in the class. So, sometimes we have students with less than a year, sometimes with more than 8 years, but that just gives you an idea of kind of the type of student that joins this program. We do also have English language proficiency levels, and you can see some of the certificates that we accept for this program. The full list is also on our website, so do take a look. But we do generally require some evidence of your English proficiency. So if you are thinking of applying and you would like to get things ready ahead of the application portal reopening, you can see a list of the documents that you need to submit alongside an application form. So that includes a copy of your university transcripts and diploma, both for bachelor's and master's if applicable, an up-to-date copy of your CV showing all the work experience you have and will be getting up until October 2023. We ask for 2 reference letters, so an academic and one professional, ideally, and things like a copy of your passport and your English language proficiency certificate. Of course, a motivation letter is also a really important element of your application, And this is where you should really be showcasing your interest in this program, how your experience is relevant, and what it is that you would like to go on and do in the future. So, moving on to the curriculum, how this program works in that sense. So this just gives you an overview. Now, as I said, some students do a 21-month program, and so they would complete term 1, which runs in the summer, July to September. It's online, and it's a mix of synchronous and asynchronous courses, and only some students are required to complete this term. Otherwise, the master specialisation begins from term 2 in October. Our students are in London from October until March. They then move on to Paris from April until June, early July. And then from July onwards, students are able to start their internships and their thesis. Some students, you have to do a minimum of 4 months worth of internships. Some go into longer internships, some go into direct employment. There is some flexibility here. And then in terms of the location of where you complete it, again, there is flexibility, and this is a bit more dependent on your visa and the track that you have followed. So you can see here on our curriculum some of the modules that are covered in the energy management programme, alongside the general seminars and workshops that supplement the core content of the programme. So Theo, thinking about some of the favourite modules you've had, I know we met with you earlier in the year around March, and you discussed some of the modules in London that you took, but is there any modules that you have really stood out to you in the Paris term?
Yeah, I think the module that I preferred in the Paris term was the Company Consultancy Projects, so the CCP project. So actually, this is something that we do with a company. So it depends. Some are huge, like large companies. Some others are small companies. And I think if I remember it correctly, we had 6 different projects that we had to choose, and we had to choose one amongst the 6th. And for me, my research question was, if a municipality has to change the buses that they have from diesel buses to decarbonized buses, should they go for battery electric buses or fuel cell electric buses? And actually we had like 3 months. We were 4 people. We had 3 months to work on this. And this was the thing, like the module where I learned the most, because this is really a hot topic in the energy transition. Like hydrogen is something really important, and battery electric buses as well. And I really, really, really love this this module. I think I really worked for it, but I really learned a lot as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's good to hear that that was obviously such a highlight. So yes, our company consultancy project is a really exciting element of this program, essentially. And it's that chance for students to work in groups with a real life company and working on a real life project. Now, I know that there are limitations to what our students can go on and share, because you kind of sign non-disclosure agreements with the company. But are you able to say kind of how the dynamic of the group? Did you have frequent touch points with the company that you were working with?
Yeah. This really depends on the company you're working with and on the team as well. But for us, it was a small company. I think there were like 25 different people in the company, and we had touch points, I would say, every 2 weeks. We had several presentations. We made several presentations for them. The last presentation, we went to their office. So we presented in front of the whole team. So that was really, really, really good. They really had a lot of experience in everything. They even gave us tickets for mobility fair, like the European mobility fair in Paris. So no, they really worked a lot with us. That was really interesting.
Excellent. And so for this type of project, were you having to conduct research, or was it more, how did you work? Because essentially it's a consultancy project, so you're acting as a consultant to that client. But did you have to do a lot of research into it, or was there a lot that you covered in the modules that was useful?
No, I would say that I mean, for my year, the modules were all related to hydrogen. I mean, the CCP project were most of them related to hydrogen, and the modules were not covering hydrogen, which made a good mix because we had to learn by ourselves on this specific topic. but this means a lot of research. I would say that we have some cross modules, of course, that cover some things that we used for the consultancy project, but most of it was research with the client as well.
And so then in terms of the modules that you covered either in London or the Paris term, were there any that really stood out for you or perhaps were really beneficial when it came to your company consultancy project?
Yeah, I would say 3. No, I would say 2, mainly 2 modules. The first one is renewable energy, because we work a lot with, like, one thing that is really important is hydrogen, is how you made it, because hydrogen is really abundant, but you have to isolate it, and the ways of isolating hydrogen is really important. And this is something that we learned as well in the renewable energy class. And another one is electricity markets, because obviously the price of the price of electricity is really key in the hydrogen making. So I would say that those are the 2 modules that I use the most for the CCP projects.
And for somebody who perhaps hasn't come from a consultancy background, how do you think they did in coping with this type of project?
I think the good thing is we are between 4 and 6 people per CCP project. And we all are from different backgrounds. We had some groups with only engineering people, for instance, so they didn't do any consultancy project or anything of that kind, but we all helped them as well. And the client also is here to help you, because at the end you're doing something for them. So if you don't really know how to do it, then they can help you so that you can help them better at the end. So I know that all the groups really did well on this thing.
Excellent. And I know you have a lecturer as well who kind of acts as a mentor during this project. So it's good to hear that you had, certain modules that were really important, and a chance to put what you're learning in those modules and discussing in those topics to practice in your consultancy project. So as well, I know in Paris you do your specialisation tracks. So for this programme, our students have the choice of 2 specialisation tracks. So one is in finance and investment, which is looking more at portfolio and asset management. And then the other is in project management and consultancy, which is looking a lot more at kind of operational risk and crisis management within energy companies. So Theo, maybe you could tell us which track you opted for and kind of what you covered in these modules.
So personally, I chose for the finance and investment track, because so I already did the portfolio management class, which is something that I did in my previous master in finance, but I really wanted to get knowledge about the asset management parts. And to explain a bit more what are those 2 classes. So the first one, portfolio management, is I would say the main highlight of this class is to show the importance of diversification from a mathematical perspective. So for the people in the audience that already know finance, we talk about the modern portfolio theory, which is the really basic theory of finance, and how diversification help in any, it can be in any field. And the second class is asset management. And this is more how you, I would say, manage your wind farms or solar panel farms or whatever, so asset management. And this is more about how you work with the technicalities, the finance part as well. So, I mean, the asset management class is the class I use the most in my work now, in the work that I told you before, investment analyst. So, yeah.
Excellent. And yeah, I guess, for you, that's really good. You kind of came from a finance background and again, heading in that direction. So that really allowed you to specialize in a couple of modules. I know where possible as well, the academic director would try and let students have access to the alternative track at the same time if it fits with schedule. But I guess good for somebody who perhaps has experience in that area or even has no experience and just wants to gain a bit more insight. So I'm glad that, it's something you're using in your everyday life. Now, we've already spoken about the company consultancy project, so hopefully students have got a good insight to how that worked. So maybe now we can move on to your internship. So as I said before, the last 9 months of the specialisation focus on a student's professional development. So this is where they do their internship and a thesis. This 9-month period, you have to complete 4 months worth of internship, but the length of the internship and the order that you complete them really is kind of up to you. The type of internship as well, that's usually discussed with the programme office or the academic director. But as long as it's relevant for the specialisation and it suits what it is you should be looking for, then generally it's something that's approved. So students are responsible for finding and securing their internships. But of course, you have this career service and the support of the school generally to be able to help students in this process. So, for example, our career service are there to provide any careers coaching sessions, interview prep and CV checks, kind of that more practical support to just prepare you for when it comes to looking for your internship and beyond that, looking for a more permanent position. So on the screen, you can see kind of an example of some of the companies our students have gone on to and some of the roles that students have gone on to do as well. But maybe, Theo, you could tell us a bit more about the role that you have and the company that you're currently working for.
Yes, so as I said before, the name of the company is Mirova. It's really a small investment fund. It's a French investment fund. We're 150 people here, and we are all working in the energy transition. So what I do, I'm an investment analyst. So what I do is when a developer has a project that he wants to sell or co-develop with a company, he just needs funds. And my role is to look at a business plan, so basically an Excel file with all the financials and technicalities, and to see if financially and technically speaking, the project is viable, how much it will cost, and if it is worth it to finance this project.
So are you able, obviously you can't share too much information or anything kind of, data private, but are you able to kind of give an example of the type of projects that may come through to you?
Yeah, so I can't say the name of the project, but I can. So there is a developer in the Baltics countries, so in the northeast of Europe, that is developing 500 megawatt of offshore wind, onshore wind, and solar panels. And the cost of everything is around 400 million euros. And this developer is rather small, so they need a partner to finance all these different projects. And my role here is to see all the different projects they have, to see the technicalities, so who is the turbine supplier, who is the panel supplier, who is doing the maintenance, etc., to also look at the financials, so how they're managed to use the funds that we are putting in, and then to see if it's worth it to invest in this developer. And actually, we made an offer 2 weeks ago for this developer, so we're just hoping now that he will accept and we can finance this with him.
Excellent. And that sounds exciting, I guess, to kind of see that project through and to find something that perhaps is a really great project to invest in.
Mm-hmm.
And so your internship, is this a 4-month internship? Is it longer? What's the situation?
It's a bit longer. It's a 6-month internship. So actually, I'm doing it in France, and in France, usually the internships are 6 months, even if some people have shorter ones. But this is just a standard way of doing internships in France.
And so, do you think that this is the type of job that you would like to do more permanently? Will you be looking for a permanent position in investment?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I was looking for either an internship or a full-time position in this sector. And actually, the company I'm in usually prefer to do internship and then hire on a more permanent contract. So really, my goal is to stay in the company where I am now. Okay,
perfect. And then, so in terms of how you found your internship, how did you apply for this? Obviously, privately, were you put on contact through a network? How did that happen?
No, I actually applied privately. So I just saw I knew the company from before. So I was just regularly checking if they had new open position. and they had one, and I just directly applied. But I still used a lot ESCP for the CV review and everything like this, because to have everything that was available when needed. But then I just directly applied.
Excellent. And so in terms of using the career service, did you kind of have careers coaching sessions, or were you already quite set on what it is you wanted to do?
Actually, I was settled on what I wanted to do, but I still get the coaching sessions to review my resume, to review my cover letters before the interviews as well, because some coaches can give you mock interviews. So that's why I still used it.
And then did you have any chances to have networking opportunities with this program, whether that was, you know, through an actual seminar or workshop, or even separately that you kind of heard about through ESCP?
Well, there are a lot of networking sessions, but the thing is, I found my internship in January 2022. So 6 months before the end of the program. So usually the networking events, even if there are some in November, December, I wasn't looking a lot at that time. And then when there were a lot of them, I already had my offer. So I didn't go in a lot of networking events.
Yeah, because that's good. Like, you obviously secured your internship quite early, which I know some students do. And I know also some students, they kind of wait a little while after the summer to try and secure and start their internship. So it's that real kind of mix.
Yeah.
So obviously you found yours directly, and you found it quite early with quite a clear idea of what you wanted to do. But what advice would you give to somebody who perhaps is starting them this year and for when they come to look for their internship?
I would say two things. First of all, use a lot the career service, because all the advisors are really good. I mean, I used 2 or 3 different people, and they were all really, really nice. They give good advices. And I would say the second advice is just to go on LinkedIn and just directly message some people that even you don't know, but just work on the industry, and ask them questions. I would say maybe 1 or 2% will answer, but it's still more than nothing, and sometimes it can help a lot. So yeah,
definitely. And I know I always speak to, you know, people who are interested in this program, and I always recommend, you know, reaching out to our alumni as well, because you're normally quite likely to find a MEM alumni who is working in an industry or a job role that you're interested in. So that's always a really good way to kind of get some information and get those questions answered. So I know you've been really busy with your internship. So what's happening with your thesis? Are you doing this alongside your internship?
I'm supposed to do no, actually I'm quite late on my thesis. So for now I just have to send my research question, which will be on hydrogen, and more precisely what is the role of hydrogen in the energy transition, because this is something that I started working in my CCP project, but I really liked it, but it's so large that I can really write on it for a long time. I will do it alongside my internship, but just I haven't started because of the holidays and everything. Like, it was a different period, but I will start in the coming weeks.
Definitely. And I guess obviously if you have a 6-month internship, that still leaves you 3 months at the end to be fully focusing on your thesis. So, because I know some students link their thesis with their internship, some do it on completely different subjects, a bit similar to yourself. Some do their thesis before their internship and vice versa. So there is kind of flexibility with that based on your own time and what it is that you're looking for. Excellent. Well, it's great to hear obviously your internship's going really well, and that you're obviously using some of the connections that you had and what you've been learning in the program. So before I go on to kind of more admissions information, I thought it'd be really nice to hear a bit more about how you found life at ESCP. Obviously you've done the London term, you've done the Paris term. How did you find both cities? Did you like both cities? Were they very different?
Yeah, so first of all, I think it's important to say that I'm not from Paris. I'm French, but not from Paris. So it was also new for me. So first of all, in London, I didn't know neither London nor Paris. In London, I think I would say both cities are really different. In London, what I really loved is all the parks, like going in the parks with my friends the weekend, and all the different markets that you can have. Like really, that is really something that I really loved in London. And in Paris is different. Paris is really smaller, so you can do everything walking, not necessarily walking, but with a bike, it's easy to do everything. And you have a lot of beautiful architecture, museums, like everything is really, really amazing. And you have a lot of artistic stuff to do. So I would say that's the thing I really enjoyed the most about the two cities.
And then alongside the energy management program, I know it's a very busy, very intense program, but were you able to get involved with any societies alongside that?
Yeah, actually, I get involved in ESCP Finance Society because they have a special part that is linked to sustainable investments. So I was in that part, and what we're doing is organizing webinars, which is really interesting because you get to know also alumni from the MEM program. So that was really interesting. And we also wrote articles on different topics. So we wrote one on COP26 that was in beginning of the year, and on a lot of different topics, Nord Stream 2, that was problem also at the beginning of the year, and everything like this. So yeah, that was really interesting.
Great. And I guess, as you said, you got to meet a few alumni through that, but also I assume people from other programs at ESCP.
Yeah. Alumni from other programs, and as well as other people from other programs, because in this society, you have people from almost every program.
Excellent, that's good. And then obviously at ESCP on our London campus, we have the Energy Management Centre, which is a centre for our students, our staff, any industry professionals to come together, either publish articles or run webinars and events. Did you have much involvement with the EMC when you were in London?
Not that much, actually. I have a lot of friends that wrote articles from the EMC, but just I was too busy with the ESCP Finance Society and just seeing everyone, so I didn't get involved in that one.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, as I said, the MEM can be, a really busy program. When you were, I know timetables can kind of change week from week based on your commitments, but what would you say would a day, your kind of a regular, like a day on the MEM program look like?
I would say it's really dependent on the term. I would say that we have more classes on term 1 than we have on term 2, and more classes on term 2 than we have on term 3. So that's why it's really different. On term 1, I would say that we have between 25 and 30 hours of class per week, plus all the homework that we can have. Yeah, so it's, I would say, maybe between 40 and 45 hours a week. And then on the last term, just to get the comparison, I would say that we have maybe between 15 and 20 hours of classes. And on the last term, it really depends because we have a lot of homework for CCP, but some people prefer to do it in like 1 month's work a lot and then chill for the 2 other months. Some people do it in 3 months. So it really depends.
And were you finding a lot of time spent doing group work or individual work, or was it a mix of both?
I would say it's mostly group work. We have some individual homework, but it's really rare. Most of it is group work. And what I like as well is we have defined groups that change every term. And the group are between 4 and 6 people. So at the end, you get to know almost everyone and get to work with almost everyone. You always have people that you don't want to work with, but at the end, you work with them. And it's a good learning as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because obviously, once you go into the workplace, you might be with people that perhaps you don't want to work with. But so it's all kind of good practice. And I guess what's nice in this program as well is that you all have quite different backgrounds. As you said, sometimes you have students from an engineering background, sometimes you have students from a business background, and it's good to have that kind of sharing of knowledge and information. So it's good that you kind of mixed it around. And then maybe just a bit of information for our students who are looking to join in October this year. Your accommodation, what kind of accommodation did you stay at during your time in London?
I had the shared apartments with two other people. I would say that most of us have shared apartments. I was in Golders Green, which is maybe 15 minutes north of ESCP campus. The northern you will get, the cheaper it will be, but you will be far from the center. So it really depends how much you want to spend and how much you want to take time to go to the center. Yeah, I would say it's better to be in a shared flat because it's difficult to be alone and it's really expensive. And you get to always to know nice people. I mean, I know all my friends from the MEM program, they all be with different people from either the MEM program or just people that they didn't know before. And it always went well. So maybe we were just all lucky, but I think easy to find nice people to live with.
That's good. And did you find, were you living with other MEM students or other ESCP students, or just kind of other people?
No, I was just living with random two other people that from, so actually one was working and one was studying. I didn't know them before. It was just, I get it on Spare Room. So I don't know if people already have their flats, but if not, Spare Room is a good website to find apartments.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one we recommend to our students who are looking to live, you know, in shared apartments. And was it similar in Paris?
No, in Paris, I had some friends in Paris, so I just lived with my friends. So it was easier for me.
Yes, definitely. And I guess the class has kind of all met each other, all established after 6 months in London. And so your living arrangements might be different for the 3 months in Paris. Excellent. So before we go on to some questions, I just wanted to run through some admissions tips. So as I said, the information's still kind of being finalised for the 2023 intake, but I wanted to just give you a rundown of how our admissions process works. So we have application deadlines every 4 to 5 weeks. Those dates are actually now published on our website, so do go ahead and take a look. The first 2 deadlines actually come with an early bird discount, so that's £2,000 off your tuition fees. If that is something you want to benefit from, do go and make sure you submit your application before the November and January deadlines. So once applications are submitted and the deadline hits, they are all reviewed, and within about 2 weeks you would hear if you've been invited to an interview. So it's really quite a holistic profile review of your application. And if you're successful in being invited to an interview, you would receive an invitation about 2 weeks after the application deadline. So the interview is with generally the academic director and another member of staff, whether that's academic staff or professional staff. And if you're successful in that stage, again, it's another 1 or 2 weeks to hear if you have been offered a place. With that offer, there is generally a 3-week acceptance deadline. So it's quite a quick process from when the application deadline hits. But as I said, we have multiple deadlines throughout the year. It generally finishes around June. The last couple of deadlines are restricted as well. So make sure you are aware well ahead of time which one applies to you and which one that you're going to submit an application for. And of course, spaces are on first come, first served basis as well. So that's something to bear in mind. If you are looking for more information, if you're thinking obviously of joining or applying for 2023 or onwards, then feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to support you through all of that. My details are on the page now, but they're also on the energy management webpage. So do take a look there. We can have phone calls or emails or a video consultation, and I can kind of discuss your eligibility for the programme to apply and any other questions that you might have. Of course, our brochure, which is found on the website, has lots of really detailed information about the modules and the course content. So do go ahead and take a look. But otherwise, I would always recommend contacting our student ambassadors, of course, Theo and Rodrigo. They can help answer questions too. And as well as our alumni, I can always kind of connect you with alumni if there's somebody suitable that I'm in contact with. But for now, We have some time, so we can answer some questions. I can see there is some questions already in the Q&A function, so do put any others that you have in here. I'm just going to have a quick read through. So the first question is on someone's eligibility. It's difficult to discuss it kind of without seeing a lot more of information, but you're asking if a 3-year bachelor's degree from India would meet the credit requirements for eligibility. So yes, if you have a 3-year bachelor's degree, you are still eligible to apply for this master. What it means is that most likely you would have to take that online term 1. But definitely a 3-year bachelor's does still make you eligible. Also, as I said, we look for that kind of 12 months of work experience, so it should be accompanied by a substantial CV as well. So somebody else has asked about the diversity in the class. Does that help in understanding a broader perspective and role of all the actors like suppliers, government, etc. in the energy sector? So this is a really diverse class, and I think ESCP itself has a very international cohort across all our programs. This allows you to meet people from different backgrounds, work with them from different backgrounds, and to have different perspectives come in. But Theo, maybe you could provide a bit more insight on the benefits of it within your energy class, especially the different professional backgrounds people had.
Yeah, definitely. So actually, this really depends on the years. But for my year, for instance, we had one person that was a journalist before in the energy sector. So obviously, it has a really broad coverage of the topic. We had some engineers, one person that worked for India before, another one that worked for Nigeria, another one for the UK, and actually all the sorry, all the research and stuff are really different from one country to the other, and the engineers can help you understand how the suppliers may impact this or one or the other thing. The person who was a journalist can tell you how the governments can help, I don't know, whatever developer to do X or Y thing. So that, I think that's why the diversity can really help you to have a different perspective on a topic that you wouldn't understand or just understand differently without the other people.
Definitely. And I think because this program is an energy management program, I think, you know, if somebody coming from a management finance background, what they're going to get is that specialist energy knowledge. And then somebody coming from an engineering background who, you know, has been working, say, in the oil and gas or the renewable sector, they're going to get those management skills that they need, which is why the kind of 360-degree view setup of this program is so beneficial and allows for that diversity in the class. So I'm glad that that's been evident in your studies. There is another one on the Company Consultancy Projects. Do students need to look for companies, or is it assigned by the professors? So Theo, are you able to explain a bit more about this process?
Yeah, sure. So actually the school is looking for different companies and research questions. I think the companies have different research questions, and the school are just selecting 5 or 6 different, and then we are proposed to work on the 6 different topics. We have to choose one out of the 6, and if we're selected to work on this one, and by being selected I mean just if we are like the first one to say that I want this or the other CCP project, I am working on this one. So we don't have to find the companies ourselves, we just have to apply. The company, the ESCP is doing everything else.
Yeah, definitely. So we have our career service, well, and also with MEM, the faculty, the academic director and the program office, they have those connections to the companies, those corporate relationships, which is where we source the company consultancy projects from. Thank you. There's another quick one that hopefully I'll be able to answer about the direct employment path. How is that regulated in regard to your thesis? So if you are able to go into direct employment instead of your internship, and you know it's kind of approved by the academic director in regards to the internship requirements, then your thesis is something that you would complete alongside it. So you would have to make sure you making the time to do your thesis, you would have regular check-ins with your thesis supervisor, and that's a way of regulating that. And then, of course, there is a deadline date by which these things need to be submitted. So that's how you would make sure that it's completed alongside. Of course, as well, that forms part of the programme. So that allows you then to graduate with the master's degree. This question is about French. So is French language fluency required by companies offering internships and full-time jobs for the programme? So the programme itself, the master's, is taught fully in English. We don't have a French requirement, but obviously part of the programme is taught in Paris. Where you complete your internship, the location is more flexible, and also kind of dependent on your visa route. But if you're looking for an internship in France, then most likely speaking French is going to benefit you. Theo, do you have any insight into this at all? Obviously, I know you're a French speaker, so it's a bit different.
Yeah, actually, I would say the same thing. In France, French proficiency is often required, even if it's not always the case. Other than France, anywhere else than France is not required at all.
Yeah, and
but for the program is not required.
Yeah, and I know definitely in France it is preferred that an employee speaks French, and we do offer classes in French as well. So depending if you're a beginner or if you have some knowledge, you should be able to practice a bit. But again, that really comes down to the employer, the job role. You may be working for a very international company where they operate fully in English. So it varies, but as Theo said, it is definitely a benefit to speak French. This one is more about food. Theo, where you might be biased here because obviously you're French, and French food is obviously great, but where did you prefer the food, London or Paris?
No, actually, that's a really difficult question. I was thinking about it since like 5 minutes ago. No, I think I'm one of the only person who said this, but I preferred London for food, which is weird because all the rest from the class preferred Paris. But I think in London you really can find amazing restaurants, whereas in Paris it's possible as well, but you have less diversity in terms of food origins, like where they come from. So I would say London.
Yeah, I agree. No, I'm joking. Paris obviously has great food. French food is so good, but London, I think, has that diversity. Like it's so diverse here, and you can get food from all over the world here. So I think it probably wins in that sense. So somebody else has asked about the Energy Management Centre. Theo, you might not be able to answer this one because I know you didn't really have the time to take part in, but they're asking how can you avail the maximum benefits of the Energy Management Centre alongside the curriculum? Would you know, or?
I know that some people also had some face-to-face talks with people expert from the industry, and I think that's really an amazing point from the Energy Management Center. But personally, I didn't do that, so that's the only thing I can say.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with you. If you are able to take part in the talks or publish any articles through the EMC, I think it would be about that network that you're able to establish. With the EMC, they might take a particular topic and do a webinar on that or write an article on that. And so if you have a particular interest in that area, and this is your chance to get an article out there or to run an event and meet people that are interested in that similar area, that's where you're going to really see the maximum benefits of our Energy Management Centre. So let's see, because we have loads of questions, which is great. So I'll just have to do a select few, I think. So there is another one on the opportunity to visit sports or the gym for students. So we don't have sports societies on campus, but we do have connections with sports societies around the local area, sports clubs that students are able to join. And there are also gyms in the West Hampstead area where our campus is based. And of course, across wider London, there's loads of gyms, loads of sports societies and clubs that you're able to join. Theo, were you part of any at all?
I was in another gym, but there is one gym. There are several gym 5 minutes from the campus, and I had another gym license. But yeah.
So is the class size restricted to a certain number? I've observed the Masters in Energy Management, and they usually have a large group of students. Okay, so I can help answer this one. So Theo, your class was about 30 students, and this year the class size is looking at about 45, just, you know, growing in popularity, and students wanting to join the specific energy masters. I would imagine for future intakes, it would be similar numbers, so kind of 40, 45. It's not necessarily restricted. It's about building the right kind of class. As Theo said, it's a lot of group work. So you're working in smaller groups and you're mixing with different groups. And I think it's about everyone being able to contribute in the class and playing their own role. So generally, you know, compared to the Masters in Management or a bachelor's program, the class size is smaller, but it just allows for those benefits of having a smaller group. But generally, you're probably looking at about 40, 45 for the class size. I think we have time for, we'll do 2 more questions. So Theo, I don't know if you would know this, but do you know of any other internships that your classmates have been doing at all?
Yeah, not necessarily internship, but positions in general. I know there are a lot of people at Total Energies. I think there are 4 people in Paris. One in the onshore wind department, another one in long duration energy storage, and 2 others. I don't remember which department precisely. I know one other person working for Octopus, another one for SSE, the Scottish utility company. 2 or 3 people are working for Baringa as well, which is a consultancy company in the energy sector. Some other people are also working for banks. Yeah, I think that's all that I have in mind now. But yeah, it's something like this, yeah.
So that's good. So quite varied, and obviously some kind of bigger name companies, some smaller name companies, and varied in terms of, you know, perhaps oil and gas, renewables, or like yourself working more in finance. Excellent.
And just between parentheses, I just add this: a lot of people are also working for the companies they were doing CCP projects for, like maybe 4 or 5 different people found their internships or position from the CCP projects.
Excellent. And do you know if they were approached by the companies or if they just kind of networked and got those opportunities through that?
They got approached by the company after the CCP. Like the people said, oh, I liked how you did the CCP. We have some open positions if you want to come.
Excellent. Yeah, I know that can be quite a regular route, and it's really good to see, because obviously the company must really be impressed with the caliber of student and the caliber of the projects that our students are putting together. So that's really good to hear as well. Right, so unfortunately we can't get through all of these questions, but thank you so much for putting them all in the chat. As I said before, you know, you can always, if something's not answered today, message me or message Theo or Rodrigo, and we can help answer those online. And if you have questions that are more about your eligibility for this program or the admissions process, drop me an email with your CV and I can kind of provide more guidance there. But I'm afraid we'll have to leave the Q&A to finish there so that we can finish in time for 7 o'clock. So thank you very, very much for joining. And Theo, thanks so much for joining us this evening. I know you've really had a really busy, long day, but it's really nice to see you and to hear how you've been getting on and how it went in Paris. So thanks very much for joining. And to everybody who's watching, thank you. Have a lovely evening or rest of your day. And I look forward to hearing from you if you're interested in applying. And for those of you who will be joining us in October, really excited to finally meet you all once you're here in London. And good luck with your move and start the programme. But thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Rachel, and good luck for everyone. Goodbye.